Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thoughts about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. Showdown at Red Gulch. Somehow, for a brief instant anyway, that marvelously mighty mini-meteorite magically made this defensive brawl for Proto-Man. Mega Man and co. don't utilize this strategy of amplifying his solar energy-fueled plasma blast with crazy reflection hoopla more often, because doing so would likely encourage Wily to formulate some cartoonishly supervillainous plan that included blotting out the sun. Terror of the Seven Seas. Sir Society supporting scientist, sculpting specialized steely scuba stuff for his never having any underwater problems before this metallic child. Primarily seems like it's a thing for these two reasons. 1. Fashioning plain old not wire or programming filled chunky defensive junk means Blue Bomber's big bad bro can't copy any enhanced aquatic movement whatever. 2. Rush didn't exactly enjoy accidentally swallowing all those fish and whatnot whenever he was engaging in marine movement manufacturing transformation techniques. Mega thinks of copying Proto's plane powers in order to greatly enhance his own, since those recent wacky Cowboy Town shenanigans made him a little obsessed with always being in a heavily jacked up state. Mega Dreams. Mr. Metallic Mook Mimicry Master manifesting a super blast this time around might have something to do with him creating/collecting spare arm cannon bits from himself or Proto that he now regularly copies for increased power fix gaining sake. Robo-Spider. Wily would specifically select stupendously sized steel spiders for his giant mech involving plans because certain huge corporations hold the patents for ginormous gorillas and lizards. One can't really afford to face potential lawsuits when every single money-producing revenue that's available must be done in an under-the-table fashion, after all. Attorney Action Anxious Albert, accessing Quickman services this time around, might have something to do with that dream dragon which showed up last episode, reminding him of a certain mechanical monster he was tinkering with around the period. Said steel, somewhat scarlet sort of speedster, first Scott built. Master of Disaster. Wily is privy to knowledge about jerkish genie junk because his experiences with those stone dudes some time ago made him all intrigued by supernatural stuff. Also, he most likely had a vague idea about this lizardy true form packing entity before becoming almost occult obsessed because studying stuff to help with Dragonbot development resulted in stumbling upon some info focused upon the aforementioned dude. One reason the stealth suit sports its glider piece instead of a certain robo-dog getting an invisibility upgrade is because said canine contraption can't deal with the increased literal hotfoot situation such a scenario would entail. Night of the Living Monster Bots. Wily would have experimented with lunar power as a way to make Proto twice as strong, granting the not president rescuing bad dude an edge over his big blue Boy Scout emulating brother, who can only siphon solar stuff. This hypnosis malarkey is able to make people into moon-charged cyborg animal horrors, because it actually involves installing nanobots that are somehow solely energized by light reflected off a certain natural satellite. Anyway, destroying those interestingly themed bots puts a stop to all this nonsense, because the things were sending out some sort of electrical signal that regularly strengthened said super small circuitry in a way which rendered it all incapable of being dealt with by normal impurity handling bodily whatnot like livers or whatever. Curse of the Lion Men. Looks like the first law of robotics deal in this universe extends to all biological things, not just humanity. It must have something to do with them getting programmed in such a never even think about trying to hunt enabling way, so the meat industry doesn't encounter any competition that's not held back by limitations like regularly resting. This blast-proof netting likely achieves its titular status by being made up of a more bendable form of the stuff used to manufacture solar panels. The day the moon fell. Going in through vent deals would be one of the last infiltration options Mega thinks of, because leftover programming from those long-gone days when he was expected to help out both Light and Wily in lab places makes him quite knowledgeable about how that latter guy doesn't keep a workspace which produces comfortable air circulation. In this particular universe, Darkman's purpose might be sending out a signal which prevents Proto from redeeming himself and truly helping out his original family. Campus Commandos. Light goes through with the ridiculous notion of making a robot college instead of simply pre-installing needed skills and information into every doodad because some government people or whatever want him to study how higher education-seeking young folks interact with each other. Dude must do whatever he can to keep funds flowing after all, lest any apocalypses happen because Mega never got regularly scheduled maintenance done or something. On a kinda related note, Top Man was sidelined until now because Wily didn't want to utilize his zaniest creation until his rival started things off with an equally nonsensical strategical maneuver. over. In a certain alternate bad future, this guy must have been the last line of defense in a mega-deprived world. Defeating him is what officially made Cutman a kung fu master. Brainbot. The concept of Brainbot must have come about because Light and/or certain aforementioned hypothetical word commissioning officials became curious about which option was better between machines always having limitless knowledge and them slowly accruing mind ammo over time. Colossal cranium-containing contraption converting Rush into a wheeled deal must involve him microsculpting said produced Pooch's feet into things that have tiny slots those chair pieces could easily slide into. Connected with this, Mr. Metal Mutt is extra happy to fly here because he's trying out every option he has for wiping that body-violating junk from his memory circuits forever. Probots. Most of the Light family falls for Proto's bold-faced lying so easily because they still believe Wily doesn't program his bots with falsehood-generating capabilities on account of how little he trusts anyone, period. Atrocious action-addicted Albert does mostly still go with said restriction, but is willing to make an exception for his most competent minion because he saw how effective such stuff can be with Rock/Roll earlier, and only keeping track of cyber fibbing from one source couldn't be too hard, even if things got all worst-case scenario filled. This new mayor is so eager to make recently righteous Red Robot over here all-important security position employed instead of Mega, because he believes the former would be more easily persuaded into executing a certain literal criminal scientist if things got too bad. Bad day at Peril Park. Rush screws up so spectacularly at this Robo-Dog show because he's the only mechanical puppy advanced enough to actually get nervous. Red Rover Rig's totally aware of how big each Light-made bot is because his programming involved full profiles on them all, so he knows exactly who to trust when walking offers come about. Hence how he knows this costume kangaroo is actually somebody very familiar. But anyway, Mega recognizing this primary palette-packing prominent posterior immediately is because his original lab assistant purpose programming involved detailed anatomical schematics for all coworkers to help make sure he never screwed up a repair-related responsibility. Related, the necessity for such precise human colon package replication involving extremes when it comes to android creation would consist of many reasons. 1. Glimpsing something that appeared fully Homo sapien, save for a lack of recognizable glutes, would be quite unsettling indeed, perhaps even to a nausea-inducing degree. 2. Possessing a buttocks, which mirrors more fleshy folks rather closely, makes it easier for both normal hospital-found medical docs and roboticists to cross-train somewhat and help each other out in a pinch. 3. Metal models might be a pretty standard thing, so clothes of all sizes can get manufactured with precise measurements without having to worry about not finding volunteers who have specific shapes. The not display intended doodads would be structured in an identical fashion, so spare part makers wouldn't have to worry about doing maintenance on too many different types of molding machines. 4. Installing chairs at every public establishment specifically for each option from an endless variety of artificial derrieres wouldn't be that feasible. 5. Robots understanding how their own southern cheeks only get comfortable on certain surfaces would help them be more considerate when it comes to maintaining sit-side stuff softness for their less steel-consisting acquaintances. 6. Basically every single new bot design presents an opportunity for improving implants that could help out war vets suffering from very specific wounds. 7. AI-guided stunt doubles in movies and whatnot need to be in scenes that involve life-threatening butt stuff. 8. Fake folks must always know how to form/defend jokes/insults about every human body part, just in case they are needed at comedy clubs as either an act or audience member. Not to mention expressions about certain types of loads might become too confusing without a standard general size. A perfectly consistent shape is absolutely necessary at the very least. 9. Developing dance-devoted devices wouldn't work out so well if they lack a tushy for shaking. This applies equally for any prospective teachers, performers, and new style creators. 10. All artificials would simply be too much of an annoyance in the lines at popular spots if standing behind them was really weird. 11. Having to worry about whether or not any local companies make legs that fit in a contraption's crack area would simply be far too much of a hassle. 12. Too many bizarre bottoms bolting throughout society might inspire a few fleshy folks to perform crazy self-harm so they could have a booty matching one that got glimpsed on a favorite bot. A self-squatter shaping surgery trend coming about is simply far too great of a risk if there's not a totally set-in-stone rump shape. Mega X. Mega goes as far as to straight up blow a new hole through Gutsman because copying Proto's power ever so often nowadays has made him grow just a tad more ruthless. X is so militaristic in this reality because Wily not going all out with power-focused design philosophy-filled bot manufacturing that started when a certain bad boy base got formed means Light never realized how horrific such a path actually is. Crime of the century. Something like this toy cowboy is perfect for sneaking into high-security areas undetected because mandates must be in place so its made noises never get loud enough to damage children's ears. Funny how worries about getting sued resulted in an entirely different set of law-associated trouble. Endings are a pain in a certain place for Gutsmen, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.